So continuing on with the TMCC Library Open Genealogy Lab Outstanding Guest Speaker Series, today we are pleased to present Janet Hovorka. Janet owns Family Chart Masters, an award-winning genealogy chart printing service that is the official printing service for every major genealogy company and has shipped over 40,000 charts to over 64 countries. She is the author of the 10 Zap the Grandma Gap books and workbooks and has widely written and lectured about family history. She is a past Utah Genealogical Association president and board member of the Association of Professional Genealogists and has taught genealogy and business courses at Salt Lake City Community College. 16 years of experience, personalized attention to each chart, and the ability to print any kind of chart a client can dream up makes Family Chart Masters the place to come for amazing genealogy charts. No other company in the world has designers and programmers with so much experience in creating amazing family history charts. Personalized attention and exactness for each project has made Family Chart Masters the gold standard in quality genealogy charts around the world. So I'd like to offer a warm virtual welcome to Janet.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be able to tell you a little bit about what we do and answer any questions that you might have. You are never going to meet anyone as passionate about sharing your family history and getting it out where you can see it, and getting it out where you can show it off to your family members than I am. So I'm happy to answer questions and help you see if you can do that with your research. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. I've got some slides to show you a few examples of what we do. And I'll get that pulled up here. All right, hopefully you're seeing that. If not, let me know. But I want to talk to you about all the different ways that you can design a pedigree chart. And I think, like I said, I think getting it out where you can see it and where you can share it with your family members is just so important. This is maybe why I feel like it's important. There was a watershed moment in my life. We had kind of had the idea, my husband's a programmer and we both really loved family history. I grew up in a very family history oriented home. In fact, it was kind of just in the water we drank. My mom was very, very focused on family history. I grew up knowing, a lot about my family history. I remember even as a child, I could name all of my grandparents, first, last, middle names, where they lived and all that kind of stuff. And we had those pictures up on the wall in our home. So my husband and I inherited a big PAF file back in the days of PAF from my grandmother. And she was kind of done working on it towards the end of her life. And I couldn't get my head around it on the screen. There were 7,000 people in this file and I needed to see the big picture. And my husband was a programmer and he came up with kind of some ways to get it out where he could see it. He actually specialized in mapping and in printing as well. So he helped me figure out how to get it out where I could see it. And as we were kind of playing with this as a business idea, I came up with this chart you see here, and that is our all of the couples that came together to create our family. There's a lot of things I do different about this chart now as I look at the design there. That was a really early chart. 18 years ago, we did this. We started this. And this chart was up on my wall in my dining room really early on as we were starting with this. And I was about to head out to maybe my first or second genealogy conference that we'd ever done. And I had run some errands in the morning with my daughter, who was very young at the time, and came back from those errands to find that the cord behind the washing machine had broken, the pipe, and that the washing machine was on and it had flooded our entire house about 6 inches deep. And it was raining down through the ductwork of our furnace into the basement. And I came into the house and of course, it wasn't a day when things were cleaned up or anything like that. And I started picking up things and trying to, oh my goodness, how are we going to deal with this? And I came into the dining room and I looked up and there was this chart on the wall with people who had been pioneers and lived through the Depression and fought in World War II and immigrated to the United States and done all these amazing things in their lives. And I had this just amazing moment where I realized that this wasn't that big of a deal, that I instantly had perspective on my own life and the things that I was dealing with. I thought, you know what, I have insurance, we'll deal with this. And it calmed me down and it gave me perspective on this crisis in my life. And I think that's what family history does for you. It gives you this sense of perspective, and it gives you this sense of your place in the world that I think is hard to come by any other way. And I think having it up on your wall is really important. I think, whether or not you do a chart after we talk today, I hope you'll go get out some pictures, or I hope you'll maybe print off that 1950 census you're going to find today. And I hope you'll have it out where you see it and where it makes a difference in your life, because I think it's critical to the feeling of your home. I think it changes the atmosphere in my home to have genealogy charts out where you can see them. I think it's a really important touchstone to be able to just know where you are in life and where you fit in the grand scheme of things. So I had that up on our wall. In fact, that very chart is still up on our wall, not far from where I am. But this is the bigger one that we have now, that has a little bit further back and some of those same people, but also has my children on it. And that's the one that's hanging in our dining room now. And that chart has icons, lots more pictures and things like that in a larger format. But I think that's what a chart can do for you. It's a communication tool. It also attracts non-genealogists. So certainly one of the things we do is charts for family reunions. And sometimes they're big and elaborate, like this one you see here with color coding and pictures and things like that. Sometimes they're just draft copies. Just get it out where you can see it on inexpensive paper. And we want you to be able to add information, let people write on it. It's a good way to collect information too, but it's also a good way to engage non-genealogists in your family. And you love talking. It's wonderful that you guys have this group here where you can do research and you can talk to each other. I'm so excited to hear that afterwards you do research together after my presentation here. We need that connection. We need that connection to other genealogists, but the people who are going to be most interested in your family history is your family, because it's their family history. And so I think there are ways to make it interesting and intriguing enough that everyone will crowd around and want to know more. At family reunions, certainly this is a chart is a gathering place. We get emails back all the time because you can figure out how you're related. You can figure out, you all feel part of the group. So it's an important thing. And I always say, if your family's rolling their eyes at you and they're not all that interested, you're just not telling the story right yet. Figure out the good stories, figure out the good pictures. Hey, this picture, there's nobody that will turn down an opportunity to look at a picture of an ancestor that looks like them at the same age they are, or something like that. I mean, there are ways to tell the story that get your family members engaged. And I think that really adds value to their life. It's a touchstone to their life to know that they're not just the issues that they're dealing with right now, but that there's a bigger picture in their life and in the people around them. So there's my little starting place. But let me tell you a little bit about the different kinds of charts that we do. And there's a lot of things that you can add and questions that we would ask you. We start with a free consultation. And so the first thing, when we assign a designer to you, the first thing we ask is, who are you going to include in the chart? And that sometimes depends on who it's for. This is one of our designers and a chart that she did for this new baby and her family. We do a lot of charts for 50th wedding anniversaries or 80th birthdays or things like that. Big pieces where they can see their whole family. But we do a lot of family reunion charts too, and we do big, huge ones. And obviously those 3 charts are going to have different people on them. We're going to include different people on the charts, and who is viewed in that. So there's a lot of options there. You can add, of course, ancestors and descendants, but you can also add siblings and in-laws, adoptive and biological families, blended families. Of course, we can, on draft copies, a lot of times we'll add unproven lines or collapsible lines. We've added pets, we've added all sorts of people, anybody you want to. We've had in-laws and outlaws. We've had people that you don't want on the chart. I had one guy, we worked on a big long chart process with him, putting in all of the pictures and all of his family. And then he called me and he said, if I want peace with my wife, I need that ex-husband off my daughter's line. And she does not want him up in our house, you know? So it might be people you want to include, it might be people you don't want to include. That works too. Let me show you a couple of examples of blended families that we often deal with. This is a beautiful blended family. 4 of those children are hers and 3 of them are his. And you know, it just brings everybody together. It makes them all part of the same family, and that's what they needed at that point. This is actually one of the trickiest charts we've ever done. This is another blended family situation where they've got 3 parents on the chart instead of just 2, and the siblings there connected at the bottom. We also do big all-in-one charts. We do this generation map that shows all of the ancestors going out, but then also 2 generations deep underneath. But a lot of times the all-in-one charts, we can do different ways, either left to right or top to bottom, and we can fit in all those cousins and ancestors and siblings and their children and all of that kind of stuff. There is an extended family chart in Family Tree Maker that works really well. It's similar to this. And basically, if you have it's basically descendancy charts, but then if you have somebody that doesn't fit into that normal format, it kicks them over to the right and it puts a number on them so that you can hook them back together. So similar to this, those get really long and kind of complicated because the chart is kind of disjointed. We can take that same information and actually plug it all in together. So we can take, you know, we get calls, Ancestry customer service actually refers people to us when they say, I want a picture of my whole tree. That's something we can actually do. We can take your whole tree and fit in all the in-laws and sidelines and all of that kind of stuff. And make it all work together. Here's another example. There's 4 different families you can see by the color coding that married into each other, and we fit it all into one chart. This is a lady with 2 different husbands and children and siblings and all sorts of people as well. And just so you know too, that blurred one there reminded me, we never show a chart without asking permission. So be sure and realize there that, and I'll come back to that a little bit at the end, but when you send your information into us, it's private. It doesn't go anywhere. And the samples that I'm showing you here, we've all asked for permission from. Let me show you a couple of formats that then we can take that information into. You can do bottom to top, or you can do top to bottom with descendancy charts. With ancestors, you can do left to right. It's typically left to right. This is how Family Search actually did some testing, and this is how people generally envision their trees, either bottom to top or top to bottom as far as descendants go. And then if they have some genealogy training, they may envision their ancestors as left to right if they've ever experienced kind of a pedigree chart. But generally you see it as top to bottom. We do a lot of hourglass charts in this kind of format with ancestors going up and descendants going down. Or we can also do ancestors to father's ancestors to the left, mother's ancestors to the right, and the descendants going down. That's generally a pretty understandable format for most non-genealogists. They can kind of follow that. We have trees that look more like branches as well. Now, circle charts are kind of complicated. I love this one. She wanted to put together a chart that was fun and interesting to her children. And so we put a circle chart together that looks a little bit similar to the Death Star. It's kind of an unfinished work in progress. And so we thought that was a great concept for that one. People either love or hate fan and circle charts too. It's so funny the opinions that people have about that. They can either follow it or they can't. Some people naturally understand it and some people don't. But basically you start with a person or a couple of people, siblings in the center, and then each generation out is a new circle. So you'd have the parents on the next ring out, and then the grandparents on the next ring out, and the great grandparents. And that's how a circle chart works. You can do a circle chart in a descendancy format, but it gets really funky like this. You can see there was a child. So the first person there had two wives, Elizabeth and Eleanor. And then Elizabeth had one child there that didn't have any children. Actually, she had two, 1819 and 1815, that didn't have any children. This is just two generations on a descendancy circle chart. When you go out further than that, it starts getting really complicated. So that's an idea of a descendancy chart, but we rarely do this kind of chart because it gets pretty complicated in a couple of generations. A descendancy format is usually going to be top to bottom or left to right. That seems to work better for descendancy charts. So there's lots of non-conventional ones we do too. Sometimes they're just pictures. This what we do direct lines. This one over here on the right was showing how this lady was related to the royal family. We do a lot of direct lines there too. And then we can do different formats as far as a little more freestyle, like an actual tree. This is one I did actually of my great-grandparents. I did this for my mother who was working on a book at the time. This is a timeline below them. And my great-great-grandparents on the left, and they're put in the timeline as to when they were born. So you can see that top grandfather was quite a bit older than his wife. And then it comes down with their 7 children there on the right in the timeline where they were born. What I love about this chart is that picture in the background is actually them in that old car. So I'm fond of that one. One of the things we run into a lot is trying to control the size of the piece of paper. And let me just tell you, the number of people on the chart, the paper size, and the font size is kind of a triangle, and one of them has to give. I spend every summer explaining this to people in trying to print family reunion charts, that if you've got 1,000 people or 5,000 people that you're trying to fit on a chart, we can do a small font and a small piece of paper, or we can do a larger font and a larger piece of paper. But it's kind of the principles of geometry, and as much experience as we have, 18 years of experience in printing genealogy charts, I can't change the principles of geometry in that. So either you've got to lose some people or lose the font size if you want a small piece of paper, or if you don't mind a bigger piece of paper, we can put more on it. So that's kind of the principles of how that works. But let me tell you one trick that we have to fit more people into less space. So in the box where you'd have a person's information, it's the width of the box that determines the width of the chart. In a top to bottom format, can you see that second to the bottom? It's kind of an interplay between that bottom generation and the second to the bottom generation that gives it the size of the chart. And that's based off the width of each box. So if I give each of those boxes an inch width, then it's going to make that chart a certain size. And that's how you control the size of a top to bottom chart. But if I do a left to right chart, then I can make that box quite a bit skinnier because of the way our language works left to right. I can make that box quite a bit skinnier. And so I can take that same information and put it in a left to right chart. I can even do a descendancy chart in a left to right format, which isn't usually the way your brain would think about it, but it's certainly possible to do. If I start with your grandparents over on the left and show their descendants going out to the right, you're going to have a much smaller space in that chart for the same number of people than you would if it was wide. So a lot of times, if you've got, say you've got 7,000 people in a descendancy file and you're having a big, huge family reunion, and it's a 60-foot chart, typically I can get it down to half or sometimes even a third of the space by putting it in a left to right format rather than a top to bottom format. So that's a general principle that helps. And then we have a couple of other formats we can put things into, especially for those big family reunion charts. We can wrap things down and around, color code them so it's a little easier to understand. And then there's also a waterfall format that you can see by the color coding there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations there, but it's not as wide because we've kind of indented people after that third generation and just put them down underneath where their ancestor was. A little bit harder to follow for non-genealogists, but still very effective. And then we can also take things and kind of wrap them around this chart. That top patriarchal line would have gone out another, probably four-ish feet on this chart, but we took it and we wrapped it down around into some of that blank space to get it all into one piece that was a little tighter and didn't have quite as much white space there. This is a fun chart we did for this lady for her 80th birthday, her kids did for her, and we got pictures on every single one of those. Those are where they start to really come alive. And it was it is such a great gift in that kind of situation, because this is the family she spent her life caring for and taking care of. And we've even, we've done a lot of charts like that, a lot of 80th birthday or 50th wedding anniversary type charts, because this is the important stuff in their life. At this point, that's what's important. And then we do huge family reunion charts all summer long. These are some pictures of some of those charts. One of the biggest setup charts we ever did was for the Pratt Family Foundation, and it was 30,000 people, and it took 800 feet of charts, and they had it in a big church actually, and we hung it up all the way down the hallways, and it was really interesting. So that was fun. One of the best things we found for that kind of situation is binder clips. You can take a binder clip and you can actually string it along a line or tape it to the wall and not damage the chart. You can flip those tabs up and use them to attach it to something, and that's a good way to display a chart. Lots of times people will put them out on tables, and this one here, you can see this was actually one of those left to right charts like I talked about. When you have several thousand people you're trying to put on a chart and you're trying to figure out a wall to put it on for a family reunion, if you take that left to right chart and just turn it on its side, you'd have to tilt your head to read it, but when it's saving you 40 feet of chart, that's usually kind of a sacrifice that's worth making to try to fit more people into that size. But the very most popular chart that we enjoy and love doing is kind of this ancestor and descendant type chart, maybe an hourglass type chart. This is more of a decorative chart. With decorative charts, we assign you a designer and they'll send you previews and work back and forth with you, make sure everything's perfect before you print. And our talented designers can come up with any design you want to come up with. So let me show you a few of those. This is like I said, a really popular format to show ancestors and then descendants. We do a lot of these. So on those, information to include, usually in the genealogy chart, you're going to have birth and marriage and death dates and places. But you don't have to. You can just do birth year and death year. You can also add other information. You can add titles and stories and ethnicity, quotes, scriptures, sayings, talents, personality traits, current addresses or social networking things. And then of course, pictures and documents, those all make it come to life. You can also add DNA and health issues. You can add age at death, physical attributes, criminal records, all sorts of things like that. We have occupations, nicknames, heritage, culture, citizenship, immigration, all sorts of things that we can add there. One of the best things that I've ever put on a chart was organ donation. We had a sister-in-law who had donated an organ to another sister, and they wanted to note that on the chart.
Friday already.
And I thought that was awesome. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. I've got something talking to me here. And I don't know why.
I think I feel like it's been someone else's birthday.
Oh my
all week,
goodness.
and it's
I just want to say,
Yeah.
I just want my students, if any of my students have their cameras or their microphones on,
There we go.
please turn them off. Thank you.
All right. So let me show you a few more things. We've given charts different themes. Basically, we follow what the client wants to put in. And that can be color coding, that can be pictures. Here's a left to right descendancy chart where they put in a QR code to the family website. This is a chart where they did icons for pioneers who had crossed the plains. We can do family crests, or we can kind of make up a family crest for you, do kind of a monogram type thing. We do a lot with flags and countries showing ethnicity. This was a really cool one where this was for a pastor's office. This was everybody in his family who had held religious office. We do all sorts of, ethnic and religious themes, of course, because those can be really important in your family. Anything that is important in your family, we can add. Certainly maps. This one here, actually, both of these here, and let me go ahead and pull up the third one, have stories. And in this first one, the Eckerman family on the left, we put in the story of how each of the couples had met. This chart in the middle, we put in a family tree narrative about how this man had never felt at home in the place where he grew up, and he went back to Italy and found his people miraculously. And now he just really felt like he knew where his roots were. He wanted to come back and make a chart to take back to Italy to show them the American part of the family. And then with this one on the right, we just put in bullet points for some of the things that they had accomplished and the number of children they had and what they did for a living and things like that. And so I love those charts that tell even more of the story. Let me tell you a little bit about a few design elements. You can change up a chart quite a bit just by changing the coloration. You can also, of course, adding pictures is a huge thing, but even that, we can change the coloration on and make it look completely different. We have lots of different backgrounds and borders and different things that we can do. Currently, right now, we're doing a lot of watercolors. We've put a lot of those in our fill in the blank charts, and we can certainly put those into different formats with where we put your information into it. We do these fill in the blank charts as well. So if you're still working on it and you just want something to hang up, those are inexpensive and you can get those on our website as well. We do a lot of different colorations to match decor or things like that. I love these butterfly ones. I think they're perfect for a nursery or something like that. And then we also have fill in the blank charts that are big, research type charts. But again, we can take your information and print those out for you as well. You don't have to fill them all in yourself. We also do some DNA and ethnicity charts if you want to show off some of your ethnicity estimates. And another thing that can really change the feel of a chart is the fonts that you use. We typically keep the genealogy in a more basic font like you see on the left, but then we can do a lot of titles or quotes or things in different formats like you see on the right that completely change the look and feel of the design that is there. And then we do a lot of highlighting, different color coding. This one has been really popular for us, color coding the different places that people come from. And that can be done in a lot of formats as well. We can put in different languages. In fact, we're doing one for a Korean family right now that's really beautiful. We've done Arabic and Hebrew and all sorts of things there. And then these are some other ones where they've integrated maps about the family. This one, at first I thought was kind of busy, but then she told me that's the family home where all those cousins used to play. And so that makes a lot of sense to have those pictures and to have that as a background. Here's another one that again was kind of busy, but when they presented it to Grandma and Grandpa for Christmas, all of the children just were thrilled and really excited about that. So that's fun. This is one of the backgrounds to me that made the most sense. The Woods family chose a tree background, which I thought worked really well. Not the cliche of being a tree, but actually needing the woods in the background. So that worked good. This is one that I did actually for my parents. So my parents moved into a new house and they had a big wall that had lighting on it, spotlighted lighting on it. And we walked in and I said, well, I know what's going there because my mom and dad are both very, very involved in family history. And so I put together this chart for them. This is a 6 by 10 foot piece that, again, tells a lot of the stories, has icons to tell about different people and different parts of their lives. My dad thought he would be really proud to get all of that up on his wall, but he says actually having that on their wall and seeing it all the time really humbles him. He looks at those people that came before him and sacrificed and built the life that he has enjoyed now. And he says it actually is a really humbling thing to have in his home, to look at all those people that came together for his life to be the way it is. This is another one we recently did with a lot of pictures for family reunion. You can do the similar thing with the color coding. This one shows the different states that they lived in. This family moved around a lot. And then let me tell you a little bit about how we do it. We can take your information from any of the databases, Ancestry, Family Search, or MyHeritage. You can actually go to familychartmasters.com/family search. That gives you a portal to be able to take everything out of Family Search that you want to put on a chart. Familychartmasters.com/ancestry gives you instructions on how to download the information from Ancestry and bring it in. And then same with MyHeritage, familychartmasters.com/myheritage gives you the information on how to download your information there. So if you have planted your tree in any of those online databases, we can take it straight from there. We also take it from any of the softwares too, Legacy or Roots Magic or Family Tree Maker. If anybody's using Ancestral Quest, any of those softwares or any genealogy software, we can take it from. You can always send us your information in those formats and we can take it, excuse me, and create a chart with it. We do data entry. So if you don't, I'm sure I'm not going to find any of that in this audience, but you guys, I'm sure, have trees planted digitally and online or whatever. But if you know somebody who wants to do a family tree who hasn't really entered it into a genealogy situation, we also do that as well. You can always send us a GEDCOM if that's easiest. But a GEDCOM does not include the pictures or any kind of images. And so you'd have to send those separately. Yeah, and I have no idea why that chart is at this point in this talk. But there's a nice military one that she did for her to honor her grandfather. So every year we release our annual favorites. And we actually are about to do that. I think it will be next week. We usually do that a little earlier in the year. This year was a little different because of a lot of reasons, but we have collected our annual favorites. So we go back through all of the charts that we've done over the last year, and we pick about 25 or so of our favorites. And we go back to those clients and ask them if we can have permission to use their charts in our marketing, in our when we go to conferences, we'll bring copies of these charts. We're going to go back to a conference. We're going to NGS in Sacramento, which I'm excited about. Finally, this next month, we're going to actually be back in person, which I'm super excited about. So we'll bring samples of those charts there. We use them in our social media, and then we put them up on our gallery as well. And in fact, we haven't announced it yet, but our gallery is updated. So if you want to go take a look at those new favorites at familychartmasters.com/gallery, we will be sending those out in the newsletter and over the blog and all of that kind of thing this next week or so. And you can sign up for our newsletter at familychartmasters.com/pound newsletter. It's actually on the front page. That just scrolls it down a little bit for you. But you can sign up for our newsletter there, and you'll get the word when we do that, or any other announcements that we make. We do have another set of charts that's coming out later this year as well, and that would be the place to stay updated and know what's going on with that. And it also, of course, when we do sales and things like that, it all goes out over our newsletter. So my question for you is, how will it change your home when you put some of your family history up, either on the walls or maybe on a bookshelf? When you get it out of the computer and put it out where you see it all the time, how will that change the atmosphere in your home? I know it changes the atmosphere in mine, and it just gives me a way of really being grounded and being able to have that perspective that I need to make good decisions and to be the best person I can be. And so I would challenge you to do that and see if it changes the atmosphere in your home. And there's my email address. I'd love to answer any questions. And I haven't had any questions through this whole thing, so I'm wondering if there's any now. Janet@familychartmasters.com. I'll go ahead and end this and turn off the screen sharing. And then if we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, in class, this is the point where you can please unmute your microphone and ask Janet the question directly that you have.
I've got a question for Janet.
Sure. Hey, Susan.
When you send photos to you, do you want them like under a certain size or no bigger than X amount of megabytes, that sort of thing? How do you work with those?
That's a good question. We generally will take any size. And in fact, on the free consultation page on our website, in fact, let me bring that up. Let me share my screen again. Let's see, let me close a few things and bring up that so that you can see where that is here. Whoops, let's see. Let's go this way. Okay, let me share my screen and just bring that up for you. Where'd it go? There we go. Okay. So if you go to familychartmasters.com right here on the front of the page, are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay. So when you click free consultation, that's a place where you can come in and send us any information that you need to. And you can send us pictures, you can send us the whole file. Family Tree Maker, just so you know, Family Tree Maker is the only type of genealogy software that gives you the option to keep the pictures in the file. Every other genealogy software, and of course the GEDCOM, you'd have to send those pictures separately. But this page right here will take any size file. So if those pictures are larger, that's totally fine. We want to get whatever we can to get the best print from you. So typically what we say is you want it to be about 300 DPI at the size you want it on the chart. And if it's bigger, then great. We'd much rather have a large file and a good crisp picture that we can print really beautifully for you than to have a super fuzzy one or something that's not, you know, not good enough quality. So basically the short answer to that is whatever you want. All right. That answer that question. Any other questions?
I'll give the class a few more moments.
Hi, this is Wendy. Good
Hi, Wendy.
afternoon. All I can say is wow to start out with. But question is, what are the price points? Kind of just give us, is there any way you can give us an idea? I mean, like that one you did for your parents, I realize, you know, that was for your parents and a labor of love, but you know, just
Doing a very similar one right now for somebody else, but go ahead.
just kind of what the price points are and what the average time it takes to make one to make a portrait.
So the general pricing is at familychartmasters.com/pricing, I think, or price. I can't remember that address exactly, but there's a link to it on the front page. Basically a decorative chart of a regular size, like a 16 by 20 or a 24 by 36 or even a 36 by 48 is going to range between the $200 and $300 range, depending on the size and the type of paper. And you can see that those grids there on the pricing page. The only additional cost to that is that the first 10 pictures are free, and after that, every picture is an additional $2. Adds $2 to the chart, because we go in and make sure that they fit perfect and all of that kind of stuff. And so generally they fall in about the $200 to $300 range. And that includes all the working back and forth with the designer, as many mock-ups as you need. Sometimes they can take, you know, 2 or 3 months even, working back and forth and making sure it's all perfect. And you don't pay anything until you go to print. Typically though, it doesn't take 3 months. Typically it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. We are a little bit backed up right now, so maybe I would say 3 to 4 at the moment. But generally it takes about, 2 to 4 weeks or so to get one of those decorative charts. Now, working charts, those draft copies are entirely different. The working charts are going to be closer to, they start at about 30 and go up, depending on size, and they can go up to 150 or more feet. So those of course go up larger, but a typical, 10 foot, and again, those numbers are all on that pricing page. A typical, 5 to 10 foot chart, working chart, is going to be probably in the $50 range on kind of more inexpensive paper. And with those, we don't do an online preview. And so those are really quick. You actually can just send that in. We'll send you some options for sizes and prices, and then you just place the order. And so those typically take about a week to a week and a half by the time they get to you. And again, they're quite a bit less expensive because there's no online preview. So there's no process involved there.
Well,
all right.
It's just, thank you. Fabulous information. And I'm looking forward to doing something for my mom. So thank you.
Oh, we'd love to help you do something beautiful for your mom.
Thank you.
Janet, I know a lot of people here in my class belong to different lineage societies like Colonial Dames, DAR, Mayflower, that kind of thing. Do you do anything in particular for that kind of a chart, like maybe with the picture of the Mayflower in the background or something like that?
Yes. And in fact, here, let me share my screen. I think we have a few, I don't remember if we put, let me show you this new preview of the gallery. So up here on top, there's the gallery is right there. These are actually our new featured 2021 charts. Do we have a Mayflower one in here still? No. So that has been really popular with the anniversary of the Mayflower coming. We've done a lot of Mayflower charts. Let me see if they're down here on the bottom. Oh, it's taking a minute to load. I think they're down here a ways. But we've done some beautiful Mayflower charts lately. Let's see. There they come. I know we've got one on here, and now, of course, maybe it was on the top. Let's see. And I'm not seeing it, of course, because that's the one I need right now. Yeah.
It was right there. It was up. If you
Yeah.
go up just a little bit, it's right.
It's not.
I saw-
This is
No.
one kind of immigrant. Did you see it? Where'd
I
it go?
thought I saw Mayflower.
Maybe I missed it.
Yeah. Okay. I think you gone up too far now.
You know, I think we had it on our favorites this whole last year, and we've just barely changed this to the new 2022 favorites. And maybe they took it off. It's in here. Should be in here. It was really beautiful. It had this beautiful red. Yeah, I'll have to find it. You're welcome to send me an email if you're interested. But we've done a lot of Mayflower charts this last year or two. And it had this beautiful watermark. It was red and gold, and it was really amazing. But yeah, if as far as different lineage societies and things like that, we can always notate that. If you get permission from the Lineage Society to use the crest, or if they have a seal or something like that, then we're happy to include that as well. But certainly we can always, in fact, I'm doing one right now for a guy who wanted to show all the Masons in his family. His family had a lot of people in them that had joined the Masonic Lodge. And so we color coded them. We put a little graphic on them, on the ones who had risen to a certain level, and we notated the lodges that they belong to. And so, yeah, we can do all sorts of things. We've even done them. I think one of the ones on the gallery was for a sorority that showed all of the pledges and who sponsored them and things like that. So anything like that, we can definitely do. Yeah.
You know, I was thinking offhand that the colonial dames of the 17th century, they're very big on family crest research, you know, in order, you know, not just to trace your colonial ancestor, but also to trace their family crest if their family has one. So I can see that this would really apply or really appeal rather to the colonial dames.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We can definitely help you with that.
Okay. You know, you had mentioned earlier about, you know, how it brings people together. I must share a very brief story. You know, I grew up, you know, with my aunts and uncles, my mother's aunts and uncles, and I never really knew them, even because when they would come over to visit, you know, they'd be sitting there with my mom and visiting, but not really, you know, with the kids. And I must say, after I started doing genealogy, it really brought me much closer to my aunts and uncles than I'd ever been before, because for the first time in our lives, we actually had something in common.
Exactly. It is what you have, no matter what you don't have in common with your family, you always have family history in common. Absolutely.
And it is truly amazing about, you know, the minute you show interest in the older generation, you know, the bond that you can form. It's really quite amazing.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. That's a great thing.
Okay, class, any other questions that you have for our guest speaker? We'll just give it a few more seconds. Unmute your microphone if you do.
This is Catherine. I don't have a question. I can see you have a lot of choices available for all our curious minds. I really want to thank you for a wonderful brief presentation. You have a lot to offer here, so thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, very good product.
Happy to help you.
What is your, let me rephrase this. Is your big time, you know, that gets backed up with orders getting ready for late spring and summer for the reunions? Is it summertime usually the reunions where you cater to? Is that usually?
We are busy through the summer, and there isn't any one date for a reunion. So that kind of goes through all of the summer. And then we are busy at Christmas time.
Understood.
We're a lot like an accountant at tax season during Christmas time, because with Christmas time, it's all one deadline. So with Christmas, if you're thinking about Christmas presents, oh, and I forgot to mention too, any extra copies of any chart is half price. So it's a great gift for siblings or children or things like that. And so if you are planning to do a Christmas chart, a gift for Christmas or gift for the holidays, it's usually good to get it in by probably the end of October is a good place. It's always easier to get your Christmas gifts arranged earlier and then not have to worry about it, right? We've had to set that deadline earlier and earlier every year, and especially with the shipping the way it is now. It's good to get it in by, I would say Halloween if you're looking for Christmas. But during the summer, we're just consistently busy all through the summer because family reunions are all the time during the summer. So that's our busy season.
Thank you for sharing the information.
If you really want a ton of attention, January, February, or about September, you're going to be able to get a lot more attention during those times.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Janet, we have a question in the chat box. Do you do the family charts that are on the show, Finding Your Roots?
We don't. We do charts that are similar. I mean, we certainly can do that style. We do charts for the TV show Relative Race. So they've needed a lot of different kinds of charts. I'm not sure who does charts for Finding My Roots. I think they have somebody on staff who just like is an artist that does those. But we do that same style with the dark colors and the dark background.
Okay, so just last chance, class, ask away. Just unmute your microphone.
Not totally the last chance. You're always welcome to email me.
Last chance for this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, well, it looks like if that's no more questions, then Janet, I hope we got you out right here on time.
Thank you. Yeah, looks great. And it was delightful to be with you. I'm glad that you guys have this resource to be able to learn and to work together. That sounds like a good group. So,
well, thank you, Janet. So before I stop the recording, I just want to remind the class that we've still got about an hour and a half left of class where we'll be working on our family trees together or talking about the 1950 release that was today. Whichever the topic is you'd want to discuss. So this is the point in time where if you are going to stay, please stay with us. If you're going to log off, just click on the red end button. And Janet, I will say thank you so much for your presentation today. It was wonderful. And I hope the class takes advantage of your wonderful service. And I will go ahead and say thank you so much once again and stop the recording.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Let me know if there's anything we can do for you.
Thank you, Janet.
Okay.
Bye-bye.